We are currently on the question 2 part, the object-oriented question of the 2013 September Matric IT paper, the prac exam. So that's paper 1 for the Eastern Cape. We've already done question 2.1, which revolved around creating the object and the methods and all that for our object. We're now going to get into the second part of this program, which is the part where we actually use the object in our current program that we've got over here, which is the program that they've given us. This is what it looks like. So we're going to go into the first question, 2.2.1. We must create an array called R schools. They're very piratey when they do these array questions, very R schools. And that holds the objects of the T school. So that's an array of T school. Now let's go start that. Now the moment, and there's a big tip, whenever you go, just first check, we're going to create that as a global variable. Let's go create it globally. So yeah, we got our variable, so I'm going to create this R schools, and that must be an array from, now we actually don't know how many elements are in this array. Now there's a text file and we could probably count all the elements in the text file. I'm just going to make it 50 of T school. Now it should give me an error when I do that because it actually doesn't know what T school is, because we've declared it here in this application underscore U. So it's probably a good idea that, just like I discussed in the previous videos, we spoke about users. We actually need to put the users, comma, application underscore U. It should work, hopefully. And now it works, because now it recognizes what a T school is, because it went over here and looked, oh, there's a T school. That's what a T school is all about. And that's how it works. But remember, we said we didn't know how many elements are in that text file. We could count them, but we don't know if people are going to change that text file or what. So whenever you do in array work or working with arrays and you're not too sure of how many elements are going to be in that array, it's always a good idea to have some sort of count variable. Some people call it rcount or count. I'm going to call it n. That's the standard I normally use. N tells me how many elements are in that R schools array. Now let's get to the rest of the question. We must obviously, on the onActivate event handler, we must read information from that application's text file and fill it into that array. The first thing we have to do is we've got to test if that file exists, and if it doesn't, we must display a suitable message or terminate the program. So don't forget, just take this, make this like a checklist. You make sure that you do everything, in that way you'll get all the marks. So let's go to our part. Now we need to go to the on the form. We need to go to onActivate. So there's the onActivate. So I'm going to double click on there so we can get to the code for it. Now when we're dealing with text files, we're reading from a text file, the key thing is you just always write this down. Always get the marks that you need. And the first thing is we need our variables. We're going to need some sort of string variable that's going to extract data from the text file. I'll call it sline, which is going to be of type string. And we're going to need a text file variable, which I'll call f, and that will be of type text file. And the basic layout of reading from a text file, the basic layout that you can use all the time, is there's going to be some sort of check if it exists. So there's going to be some sort of if file exists. We'll write the rest of the code later. If file exists, let me spell it right. If file exists, bracket, blah, 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 then it will do something. Okay, all that. Then we get to the actual part. Now the first step is always the assign. There's always the assign the file. Then there's the reset, which means we want to start from the very first element or first position in the text file. Then there's a while, not end of file of that text file. Do, and then we've got to put our begin and end, because we're going to be doing lots of things. And inside there, we're going to do some sort of read line. And at the end of everything, we're going to actually close the text file. Now I always write that down so I make sure that I get all the steps. Once I've got that skeleton there, I can add the bits that I need to put in. So the first thing I need to do is I need to check if the file exists. Now if file exists, we need to check if that file for that text file exists. So it's the applications text file. Make sure you spell it correctly. I think it's application. This is not application.txt. Now that's a string that it takes. Now if that is false, if that is equal to false, or if that is not equal to true, that means that text file does not exist. Then that's a problem, because then we can't actually read from the text file. Then we need to do some things. What are we going to do? First of all, they said we must show some sort of message, so we'll show message. suitable message, they said. So I could write the word suitable, but it probably wouldn't be accepted. So let's just say file does not exist. Does not exist. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there's what I'm going to display. And then they actually tell me that I should actually terminate the program. Now, there are lots of ways of terminating a program. We are going to use the exit. You can just write the word exit. That'll work just as well. So exit, and that should work. So if that doesn't exist, it'll just exit and it'll stop the program straight away. It won't do anything. But if it doesn't do this, it'll bypass everything and come to this part. And there's where we get to the actual part of my reading from a text file. So the first part is the assign, and it's actually not assign, it's assigned file, and this is where we assign the actual variable applications.txt. We're going to actually assign it to the variable f, which is our text file variable. So that's what we're going to start off doing. So let's first of all we give the variable f, which is our text file variable, and then we put in a string, the applications.txt. So what it does is it now links this f variable with applications.txt. So now I don't have to refer to applications.txt every time. I can now just refer to f, which I'm going to do in the very next line where I say reset. Instead of reset application.txt, I'm going to reset f. Don't forget your semicolons. We don't want those errors coming up later. And then while not end of file, and in brackets we need to tell which file, which is the f file, do. And then read line, we're going to read line from f and put whatever that line is and put it into a variable called s line. Remember we declared that string? That's going to be put in there for us. Once that's done, at the end we're going to close the file, which I'm just going to do over here, close file f. So there we go. We've got our skeleton, and the one thing, not only does this give us structure for our reading from a text file, but it allows us to get all the marks that we need, because we'll get lots of mark allocations for that. Okay, so we get in S line. Now what's happened here is if it doesn't exist, it closes. We assign the file, we go to the first element, and this is a loop going through all the elements in the text file. We now just treat it one line at a time. So let's just treat S line as one particular line. And you'll see over here, it looks like this. So there's these hashes over there. So the first hash will, from position 1 till the position of the hash minus 1, will be the name of the person. So we're going to do some sort of extracting here, and we need some sort of variable that's going to find the position of the hash, which is going to be some sort of integer. So I'm going to make a hash variable called integer. And the first time we do this, I'm going to say, you know what, the hash variable is equal to the position of, what are we looking for? We're looking for the hash. And where are we looking for it? We're looking for it in S line. Where is the hash in S line? That first one was Jack, so the hash was position 5. So now I'm going to have some sort of variable, let's call it S name. Let's call it S name. Now I'm going to extract that S name. I'm going to say, you know what, S name is equal to, we're going to copy from S line. That line that we extracted from the text file. We're going to start at position 1. And we're going to carry on going until the position of the hash. But I don't actually want the hash as part of the name. So I want one before the hash. So if the hash is position 5, we want to go to position 4. So we actually take that hash and minus 1. That way we'll get just the name. Now I need to find the position of, if you look at the bottom here, I need to find the position of the next hash so I can get the date of birth. So if I use this hash pos again, it's going to still give me that first one. So I'm actually going to delete from S line. I'm going to delete everything from position 1 up until the position of the hash. So delete everything up until the position of the hash. So all that front part's gone. So all I'm left with now in S line is the date, hash, and a true and a false. So basically all I have to do is I can actually just copy this code and just paste it like this. Now I found the position of the hash, which in this case, remember we said it would be this part here. Now we need a variable to store that. That will be the date of birth. So SDOB. And instead of storing the second part in SName, we're going to store it in SDOB. So now it's going to find the position of the hash, which would be over there, which will probably be like a 13. And it'll go from 1 till the position of the hash minus 1. So it'll be all that date. And then we'll delete. And then we'll be left with this true and false. Now here's where it comes interesting. We don't actually need to do any more hash calculations or anything like that. We've got S line. S line is equal to whatever that variable is. But we are probably going to need to store it as a Boolean. So I need some sort of Boolean here. So let's call this S deposit, I think it was, which is of type Boolean. And we're going to say, you know what, this S Boolean is now going to be, or this S deposit, sorry, this S deposit is going to be whatever's left in S line. Because whatever's left in S line will be true or false. But there's a problem. S line is a string, and S deposit is a Boolean. And if you guessed correctly, we're probably going to have to convert it from the string to the Boolean. Now, if you haven't used this before, then we can always just go str. We know it always starts with that. Press Control Shift. There must be a string to bool. That sounds like what we need. Look, likely it's not string to boo, because it'll be like a joke. So there we go. We've extracted it. Now we need to put this into our array. Now we don't know how many elements are in the array. We do have this n variable, which is automatically set to 0. So it's set to 0 the first time because it's a global variable. All global variable integers are set to 0. So now we're going to say n, we're going to increase n. So if it was a 0, it's now a 1, because we're going to put now a object in position 1. If it was a 13, if there were 13 elements in the array, and we got another one, we're going to increase n, make it 14, and put it into position 14. So there we go. I've got the increase the n, and then I'm going to say my R schools at position n is now going to equal to T school dot create. Remember, we've got to create our objects. Now, object has some parameters. There's a S name, which is very similar to what we've got here. We need to put in the name, which is also a string. We also need to put in the date of birth, and then we need to put in the deposit. And we have extracted all those variables already from the text file. So there we go. We've extracted it all. Looks like it's all in. Hopefully it'll work. Let's just run it. No errors, and I'm assuming that it's all fitted in to that array. So basically what's happened is we first check to see if the file exists. Obviously it does, because it didn't end the program. Then it assigns the text file to a text file variable. We reset it, which means we start at the top. We loop through this text file, extracting S line every single time, and with each S line we first extract the name by working out where the hash is and getting one before the hash, delete what we've got, and then work with the rest. Work out the SOB, not SOB, SDOB, yes, date of birth, not state of birth. And then we work out the deposit, which is whatever's left over of S line. So it seems to be working, and we're now going to use the next part of this video. We'll go into the other questions. I hope you're finding these videos are useful. Please make sure to see the rest of the parts and the rest of the other videos at our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos. Please leave a comment of what you like, what you don't like. We're always trying to improve them. And follow us at Mr. Long Edu on our Twitter page, just to see when we post new videos.